Today we are talking message architecture with Thami Nkadimeng. So I'm just going to put that in there while we all get ready to come in and we start making our way into the room. And then I'm just going to pin that. Edwin, you are just such a star. I see you already in the room again. So that's absolutely excellent that you always join in for these conversations. And today I would love to hear a little bit more from you, question-wise, like you always do. So thank you so much for joining in. While we allow everyone to stream in, I hope everyone has had a good week. I want to encourage that this conversation be very conversational and be filled with comments and engagements and questions for Thami, because I feel like today's conversation is one that many of us are going to be affected by in our day-to-day lives, in our professional lives. So it's going to be a very interesting one. And even if you are going to watch this when it's posted as an actual post, hello Ayanda, I see you. It's been a while. Glad to see you on the line. And even if you are going to watch this after it's been recorded as an actual video on my feed, please do share some of your thoughts and ask questions, and head over to Thami's page and follow her and see some of the amazing work that she is doing. So it's Friday again. It's time for us to have this conversation. I'm happy to be with you. Thank you for being online with me again, as we always do. It's absolutely fantastic to have you here. So today's conversation, I think it's going to be a really exciting one for me, more especially because I've wanted to have this conversation. I'm looking, and I think if this is the case with you as well, please definitely, let me see. Okay, I think let me unpin my comment. I just realized, Thami, that I spelt your, goodness, I wouldn't want to devalue your brand like that, girl. So I'm going to change that. I think instead of a D, I put another letter there, an S. Okay, awesome. So I'm going to pin that in you. Lovely. There we go. So I've been working on my repositioning, my brand at the moment, and this is the year. Funny enough, one of my big goals for 2021 is positioning, is growing my brand as a speaker, as an individual who facilitates, and as a coach. And funny enough, this conversation speaks directly to me and what I am doing and what I am looking for. So I'm really excited to have this one. And it's message architecture. It's what message are you putting out there? How do you align it? How do you get the messages that you put out to infiltrate into everything you do? A lot of the time, and Thami's going to speak so much on this about contrary messages, one message, two messages, is it okay? And what about contrasting messages? Because sometimes you put one thing out and then people see you in another realm or in another part of your life and they go, how about Sbanbani? This is what we saw you to be here. Is everything okay? So we're going to have those conversations today and help ourselves and have Thami share one or two really great tidbits about how we can best position ourselves around our messages, what we're putting out into the world as our story, our message. So let me introduce Thami, then I'm going to bring her on. I'm really excited. So Thami Nkadimeng is a message architect, and she's actually, this is a positioning that only she has. Hello Slee, lovely to see you, that only she has globally. So this is really exciting, which means that she's a conversation molder, a conversation facilitator and moderator. So she works with moderating conversations. She's also a speaker, she's an author, and she's a passionate brand ambassador, which is one of my favorite things about her, is that brand ambassador part. She has an in-depth experience in the fields of communication, public affairs within the tourism industry, mining. She's worked in construction and in the finance industry as well, working with them to help facilitate those really, really forward-moving conversations. Her brand centers, and you will see this is, if you head over to her website, which I encourage that you do, thaminkadimeng.com, you'll see that she positions herself in this African queen manner, and she weaves her stories into her facilitation and her rich experience within those different fields that I spoke about to build thought-provoking and really impactful conversations that really guide global audiences towards some really impactful and amazing work. So I'm going to welcome her on. I know she's already requested. Thank you for everyone who's already sending the love into the room. That makes you feel like you're welcoming her on. And even if it is a clap like we often do on this live. And I just want to encourage. Hi.
Hey, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm a little bit tired today. You can see my eyes a little bit droopy. I've had a really long day. I just jumped off a strategy building session with one of the big mining companies in South Africa. But I was like, we're going to make this happen. So let's make this happen, right?
Very nice. Oh, I'm so happy to see you. You look pretty as always.
I think you just say that.
For real. So great to see you. And I think I can say the same, like myself. It's been such a crazy week, but I think because this is what you do, you just find a way to psych yourself up for the next thing, and then your energy drops, and then you back up for the next thing. Is that the same with you?
I don't ever have to psych myself up for speaking. It's something I'm born with. So if you psych yourself up, it means you have to now, find it to be it. I'm naturally it. So I never have to psych myself up. I'm there to talk. I'm born to do it.
Oh my goodness. Wow, that's fantastic. So I think let's jump right into it, Thami, because I think that this is going to be a very exciting conversation for me. And I think for everyone else who's watching, just want to encourage everyone to head over to Thami's page as soon as we're done. Follow her. Let's engage, ask questions, make all of those comments, whether it's questions that you have about your own experiences or whatever it is, stuff that we're talking about right now. So Thami,
so before you carry on, I have to interrupt you.
Go ahead.
This is my first ever Instagram live, right? So I was so nervous joining on. I'm like, what do I click? What do I do? I phoned some people who are really great at it in my network. I'm like, oh my goodness, this is very new to me. So I'm quite excitable about this.
Awesome, cool. I hope it's going to go according to your expectations and exceed them actually.
You're good. We'll be good. We're just chatting.
We are. This is just a conversation among two ladies who happen to be in the same industry and really want to get some value out with two other individuals. So let's kick off, Thami. I want to understand here, because this is one of the biggest issues that I've had. When you are going through forming your message as an individual, and especially as a professional, a lot of the time what you have so many people say is stick to one message, focus on one message, hammer it into every part of your life, and just stay focused, like a kind of tunnel vision type thing, and only put out one message. I want to know what your thoughts are on that.
I fundamentally disagree with that, and I emphasize fundamentally. I think we are fluid human beings, and we change over time, but also on a daily basis, you play a variety of roles. And I'm very pro using myself an example, and I'm a female, so I know we've got some males on the line, and I'm not being sexist, but I'm using it because I'm speaking to myself as an example. So on any given day, I am a wife, I am a mother, I am a boss, I am a employee, I'm a supplier, I'm a daughter, I am, you name it, and whatever it is. And all those various aspects of me portray a very different message out of me. And I like it when people say you are like an onion, you made of many layers. So the problem that I fundamentally agree with having to now have a tunnel vision when it comes to messaging is you're being requested to stop other aspects of you, or to now fit them into a rigid tunnel that doesn't make sense. And I find that you can see it mostly, and I'm not picking on any specific people. If you're an influencer, great for you, and do that. But we also have gone through eras where young people now want to come across as, I've got money and I'm making it and I'm wearing these brands and whatever, because that's the message that they want to send out. And it becomes a problem now when finances are no longer there, because you're trying to stay with this tunnel messaging that you can no longer upkeep. And it makes absolutely no sense for me to try and stay in one message. What you've got to do is stay very authentic to who you are, and you are the very message in every different aspect. If you're thinking of a message is what I want to articulate to people. When you think of key messages, you're thinking about what is it that I do? Why do I do it? How am I different to other people when I do it, or in my very own being, and what is the value that I want to bring across? And who are you to determine those key values and stay there in tunnel when you don't know who you'll be in the next 5 days? If anybody can tell me what they'll be in the next 5 days, then please go ahead and pick a key message that you'll stay consistent to.
Wow, so well said. I love that. And I think I've got so many follow-ups on that. And I just want to encourage everyone. I see Riri, you say you are looking forward to this conversation. So I hope it exceeds your expectations as well. Keep the comments coming, guys. Thami's already on fire and we've just gotten started. Thami, you spoke a little bit just now about how you think that we are consistently changing. So what should our messages really be based on? And with that changing consistently, what does that actually look like? Like, let's say we're starting off now with someone who goes, I want to brand myself in a very distinct way and understand myself better. Where should I look first? And you did mention a few key things. I'd like you to just expand on each of them now.
No problem. So a lot of people will say, if you want to build a brand, you now need to mold yourself, and I'd love to borrow just from a technical perspective of what molding is. Molding is really a manufacturing process. I don't know why we use it on ourselves, because we're not being manufactured by anybody, even ourselves. And it's about shaping something that is fluid into a rigid frame or into a specific set. And you can't mold a message because you're not a fixed person. You are not rigid. So if I had to say, start from where, if you have to start building a brand, you need to start by finding yourself. Okay. If you haven't found yourself, you won't know what it is that you want to portray out there, and you won't even know what aspects of life that you are actually dealing with. I can clearly define, like I did earlier, that I'm a mom, I'm a blah, 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 blah. And there's certain things that I don't necessarily want to let out to the world, and those I can cut out. So if I would really stick on finding who I am, and within finding who you are, you really need to find your purpose. Right. Now, I get really big on this purpose conversation because it's huge for me. And it's a big deal, not because it's something I want to brag about, but it's something I'm really proud of. And I'm really proud to God for helping me find it. And I'm a believer in God. I don't expect everybody else to believe in it. And the reason why I'm really thankful to God is some people die not knowing their purpose. And the fact that I found mine at what I find is a relatively young age, I'm only 36 years young, I'm not very old, is a big thing, because I do pray I'll live until my 90s. So I have so many years to still figure it out. Now, for me, purpose is really the intersection of where your talents and your passions meet, right? You will never be given a purpose where it doesn't meet at the intersection. So if you're really talented at something, but you don't have a passion for it, quit. That's not your purpose. It would never work that way, right? I have a passion, for instance, for creating events and running events. I've held some of the greatest position in running events. Do I wake up every morning want to run an event? No, I want to be the service provider at the event, on stage and speaking. And that's something I'm very talented at putting together, but it's just not my passion. And the passion part of it is really when you're passionate about something, but you have no talent to it. We see it a lot. I mean, let's look at idols, for instance. You find people who are so passionate about singing, but can't hold a note. It can't be your purpose if you don't have the both put together. I often make an example, and I'll use two examples today, is, our moms used to buy stockings when we were growing up. I grew up in Soweto. Okay. So played on the streets with everybody, and our moms used to buy stockings, and they'd use them over and over and over again. And then once they got holes, what did we do? We took a glass bottle or a knife, and we cut them up, and we create ungusha with it, right? Yes. It's the same as a knife, a butter knife. A butter knife in itself is actually created, to butter a bread or whatever. Or pick the jam out. But people use that, for instance, for unscrewing screws and furniture or whatever else have you. Now, this is coming back to the purpose. You need to find what you're created for, right? These things were created for a specific thing. It doesn't mean that they can be only used for that thing. And I think we sometimes miss the purpose part, thinking you can only be used for one thing. No. Purpose can be many purposes, but those things need to be the intersection of where your passion and your talent meet, and you're good at doing that thing.
Mm-hmm. Love it. I love that. And you said just now, before we go into what some of the things that you've noticed we get tripped up on when we do start to position our messages. I want to talk about, you said you find yourself, and I want to have this conversation quickly. If my message is going to be really based on my findings when I find myself and I come to certain conclusions that are obviously subject to change, is it really a question of finding, or is it a question of creating myself? And or is it both? And if so, when and where and how?
I don't think it is creating yourself. I think it's realizing who you are at the core and then creating the future that you'd like at the very core. So it's really finding is also a weird word, and we shouldn't use find, because finding means you were lost. It's just realizing what makes you and not Thami, and not I was trying to figure out a name that's online. So it's realizing at the very essence of who you are.
I really like that. I see we've got a comment. I love what she said about purpose. She explains it so well. Yes, I love this comment. Keep spreading the love. And let's get questions as well, so we can engage Thami a little bit further. And if there's anything that you think, oh my goodness, can we double tap into that? Can we look a little deeper into that? Please do post it. Self-realization, I absolutely agree. Okay, so let's move from there now and get a little bit practical, because I love for these to be, okay, if I go away now from this live, I want to have things that I can go boop, 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 boop. This is what I can apply. This is what I can do. So let's start here. What are some of the things that you think people may not be doing so well? Like some of the two, I don't know, I like to call them two do's and two don'ts. So let's start with the two don'ts. When we're looking for our key messages in the different parts of our lives, what are some of the things that trip us up every single time?
So I think don't base your message on your audience first. If you're going to base yourself on your audience changes as well over time. And I mean, we're on Instagram right now, and I'll use this platform as an example. If you're going to now create yourself as this sexy, person on Instagram, and you think, okay, I'm doing it for the likes, for the audience, because I want the like, and then lockdown hits and you gain weight, now you can't be that sexy that you used to sell. And don't base your message on what you think the audience wants. Base it on who you are and the consistency that you can give to the world. So I think that is very imperative. What I'm going to say right now is really going into a vulnerable space for me. And it's okay, I will get into it. Do not compare yourself to anybody. I think we hide behind the words, I am benchmarking myself against my peers. But the problem is benchmarking, we as human beings are not really wired to just benchmark and just stop at the benchmarking. That is more a scientific system run thing. So when you're creating your message, don't say so-and-so is doing it, so I need to be doing it that way. You really need to carve yourself so that you can carve the differentiation with a new message, but still staying true to yourself. And I'll give an example. Sure. I'm not the first Black female South African to get into the space of conversations or to get into the space of writing articles with people. So I joined this space not so long ago. So I'm not and old, like I haven't been in the industry for so long, or what they call a goat, the greatest of all times, but I'm just doing my best. And so what I did is I started looking at the jargons that other Black female speakers were using, and I thought, okay, fantastic, I need to brand myself under this umbrella because this is what's going to work for me. What it led to is me starting to want to create myself, to speak like them, to dress like them, to go for the same, jobs and bookings that they'd have. And it was really taking away from the authenticity that I was. And that's why I made sure that I don't even compare myself in terms of the title that I give myself. And that's why I had to come up with something completely different, because it put my mindset within the right frame. So I really would say you need to you really need to just not compare yourself. What's also incredible that I'm learning, and I'm not going to say I'm a guru at it, is never think you're amazing, but believe you're amazing. Because the minute you start thinking you're amazing in your messages, you start to kind of lose the plot a little bit. But you've got to believe yourself enough that the message will reach the people that it's meant to reach. So you've got to believe it. But don't think you're the bee's knees. You will fall very quickly in your messaging.
Okay, I want to talk values now as we start to work on this and get a bit practical. One thing that I found very, very helpful with me, especially when it comes to authenticity, and I think that this is coming up as a theme, a few people have mentioned it in the chat, is this idea of aligning your message to your personal values so that it's always true to you. For me, I've got 3 key ones. I'm only going to mention 2 because the last one's going to make me seem some type of way. But my first 2 is...
No, say it. You have to say it. We're having an honest conversation. So you have to say it.
Sure. Okay, I'll say it. So the first one for me is teaching, and the second one is learning, and the third one is building wealth creation. So building wealth, ongoing wealth. And this is wealth in the sense of depth and not wealth as in the sense of finances. So that's the one. But the teaching and the learning, I really love that. The teaching and the learning are 2 that I promise you, Thami, anything that I do, whoever I engage with, if I pick up a call with an agent and I look at a certain job that I can do, whatever it is, I'm asking, is there teaching? Is there learning? If there are none of those, I won't even go out for tea with the person because it's out of alignment with those. Now, I want to understand from you as someone who, works extensively with messaging. Do you think that there's alignment, there's a place for values in crafting our message going forward?
No, there definitely is. I find it interesting that you say teaching and learning are values, where for me they're more verbs, right? Values are not really necessarily doing words. So values is I see them more as adjectives that describe you, and then you would say, why do I love teaching? I love teaching because of this value. I love learning because of this value. So initially when I started in this space, it had absolutely nothing to do with values. I have to say hi to my childhood friend. Sorry, just joined. Hey, Chaba, I see you. So it had absolutely nothing to do with that. But as I've grown and as I've started realizing myself, I don't want to ever keep a message based on just values rather than what I want to achieve out of that. Right.
Okay.
Because when you start putting it on values, you're opening up yourself to a lot of scrutiny. So if it's going to be on a value that you cannot uphold because of whatever season you're going in your life, you open yourself to people poking and that's not the intention of the things that we do. So the one thing that I do say is, if it's not impactful, I don't want to have anything to do with it.
Okay, but then how do you define that? Sorry. So how would you then define
That's what I'm saying. But this is what I was saying to you. And then I then have a choice as an individual to determine what impactful is in whatever season I'm in.
Okay, that's very interesting. So then where's the consistency then? Or do you find that you're comfortable with that, with impactful meaning so many different things in so many situations?
The consistency is here. I'm Thami Nkadimeng.
Okay.
I'll consistently be Thami Nkadimeng. Yes, I wasn't Thami Nkadimeng from the time I was born, but I will be Thami Nkadimeng until the time I die. The consistency is here, and it takes us back to the conversation. You cannot have one key message because you're evolving all the time.
Yeah.
So you'd rather look at the objectives that you're trying to set, and we look at the consistency rather as tangible things rather than your heart, your soul, your core being the consistency. And being ever changing together with you.
Because that's the part that's consistently changing. I see we've got a question here.
Right.
From Edwin. Thank you so much. And guys, I just really want to encourage this as well. You'll see at the bottom of your screen, there is a question tab, there are little speech bubble with a question mark in it. Please do use that for your questions. Thanks, Edwin. It says, as you find your purpose, should you keep your messaging quiet until you find your purpose and you're sure about it? Great questions. Edwin, Thami?
It depends what you want to do with your purpose, right? So if you're finding your purpose and your messaging and you want to make money out of it, it automatically doesn't just become a purpose anymore. It becomes intellectual property because you're going to share it to make money out of it. So that's really dependent on when you find your when, you know, what are you using finding your purpose for? So once you define that, then you can start deciding, do I share it out to the world because somebody could steal it, or find a, try and carve theirs to go into mine. But I think we are kind of showing ourselves every day anyway in the world without even knowing. So you can't really keep things cryptic about who you are in the social media world that we're living in at the moment.
Do you think that it's important for people to display their messages, or I mean just for themselves as a self-reminder or a prompt or anything? Do you find that it works with people to have it maybe written down or somewhere where they can see it consistently, or is it just something you keep quietly inside of yourself and sort of align yourself with every now and again when you're in particular situations?
So the problem with me answering that factually is that I'll be answering a one straight answer, and we're not all made the same, right? So you need to find what is working for you. If you're the kind of person who needs to read things over and over for it to resonate with you, then do that. If you're the kind of person that needs to pray it over and over, then do that. If you're the kind of person that needs to meditate it over and over, then do that. And if you're the kind of person that once you've discovered your message, it's stuck with you and it's just exudes out of you, then do that. I'm not here to tell people how to live their lives and what will work and what will not. And we are in a world that kind of, I think that's the issue, is this is fixed and this is how you must do it, but we're not all built the same. So I say, do what works for you and maybe try the different methods, and you'll see, what is going to work and what is not.
Mm-hmm. So what would you say your message is, Thami? Or you can even split it into the different areas of your life and what your dominant message is in each.
My message is very standard. I am an architect of messages. I create messages through conversation, which is the verbal part, through the written, which I'm sure if you follow my page, you'll see how many things I write for a variety of magazines, and also through non-verbal. I just discovered that recently. I like to paint, and I like to just express myself on my walls. I've gone into basically redoing my house. I say that because it's so much work when I'm meant to be resting. That's what I'm doing. So that's really my constant messaging, whether it is me talking about motherhood, whether it's me talking about my career and what I'm doing on stage, or as a friend, or whatever it is. I just create messages. I architect messages that feel right to share with the world.
Okay, take me through what that looks like. Like, let's even use the framework of being a mother, which is such a beautiful thing. Take me through what being a message architect looks like in your motherhood.
It's that's a very fluid space for me, because I don't think I can really. I don't think I can really define it to the world. And the reason why I don't want to define it to the world, if you look out there, I don't really speak about my children. I don't really post them a lot because it's quite a sacred space. But I'll give you an example of message architecture. I have a son who's really incredible. I have two boys. I'm talking about the oldest one right now. It's about creating intentional messages and how we live in our home, and creating intentional messages that will help him to believe, in himself and what he is. So it's kind of molded into my life to be very intentional about what message I'm trying to get across. Again, I'm not perfect. I don't always get it right, but I've started to see messaging more as building, and I'm building into something, and I'm building for something. So it's just intentional words or actions that build towards something.
And I like the word building that you've used there, because it implies that it's consistent. And I think you touched on this as well, that a lot of the time, one of the biggest mistakes we make is to think that it's stagnant and it's fixed at any given time. I mean, you're a speaker as well, and there's so many speakers that consistently rebrand themselves. I mean, one of my colleagues used to speak on Generations a few years back, and now he's completely reworked his branding, completely reworked what he comes across as a subject expert, and that's completely different. So how do we start to think about our messages as fluid, as consistently? How do you know when it's time even to shake it up a little bit and change the messaging here and there?
It's always time.
Ooh.
It's always time, and whatever feels right with you, change and shake up whatever. I see my life as a whole script, and the only consistent role play in that script is myself, and I get to re-script it as I want. All the other players in my theater, I can script in and I can script out whenever I feel like it. So you can change scripts on us whenever you feel like it, however you feel like it. It's your story at the end of the day. You don't have to impress anybody. The only thing you need to be is very happy with yourself at the end of the day. And I like that you touched a little bit more on the building. And as you were saying that, something popped in my mind. It is like building. Well, I said building and then you reiterated it. It's very much like building, right? But what you've got to be cognizant of is what foundation you're building on. It's like building a house, right? So in creating my messages, I'm learning to figure out my foundation. And my foundation for me is God. So in the messages that I send out, in the things that I say, if God was next to me literally, would I still say those things? And would they really be true to my heart? Or God would be saying, wait, nah, you're lying. And for me, that's so find your foundation and then build on that, because it's going to be so solid.
Wow, and where do we even start with that, right? And Nompi, I see you're saying you're so excited. Let's have a question and some comments as well. Please, Thami, go ahead.
Where do you start with that? My journey was so strange, right, in how I found my purpose. So one of the women I love very, very much told me to watch her on a TV show, Mama Mersha. I saw she was on, and I don't know if she's still on. And she was speaking about, I think it was Daughters of Destiny. It was a show, something like that. It was Daughters of Destiny, and she was being interviewed. And of course, I wanted to watch her. I love her. Of course, I'm going to support whatever she does. Within 5 minutes of that conversation, she had spoken about how she's living her purpose and she's happy, and I couldn't watch it. Okay, I was also very emotional. I just had a baby, so, add the emotions to it. And I just remember saying to my husband, I don't even know what my purpose is in life. This is less than maybe a little bit more than 2 years ago.
Sure.
And I went into the shower and I wept about it and I prayed about it. And I said, God, you need to show me why I'm here. I'm made uniquely and I'm made differently, but I have no idea why I'm here and what my purpose is. So mine was quite an intimate way of finding it. You need to be still. And I think that's the key of it, is you need to be still. And we are just woven as very impatient people in the society that we're in. So somebody will say, okay, I'm planning to be still on Thursday, and the answer is going to come to me on Thursday. It doesn't work like that. You may be just quiet for 30 minutes. Dololo.
Nothing.
You need to be still in everything that you are in order to find it. And for my stillness came in my vulnerability. And then it started making sense. I was like, okay, I talk. Okay, I could. And that's how it evolved.
And that takes me to my follow-up question, actually, so perfectly. How do you know then, once you have it, and you've gotten that, and I see we've got a question, lovely, and you've gotten that, how do you know what channels you could potentially explore to get your message out there?
You don't.
Ooh.
You don't know what channels. You've got to I follow my feelings. Okay. So I've learned to trust my gut and my feelings. And if something feels right, then I will do it. And if it doesn't feel right and it gives me a niggly feeling, it doesn't mean I don't do it. I'll just hold back a little bit. And if it feels better at a later stage, then I'll do it. So it's a situation of feeling things out and figuring it. And I'll give you an example from my life. So started speaking, got a lot of people just following me on Facebook. And not that I'm really like rah-rah about followers, but that's how you get the word out about who you are, because at the end of the day, I'm in the business of selling me and the talents that I come with. And so I got into a stage where everybody's like, no, Facebook is not the place to be. You need to be on Instagram because the brands will then make you an ambassador and blah, blah, blah. And it consumed me so much that it even changed or the things that were very true to who I am in the way I was posting, because I wasn't being authentic. I was doing it because that's the channel I was told to use. So for me, it's a really touch and feel, and you're going to figure it out. And when it's right, it will yield results. And when it's wrong, it won't yield results. But I think what's also important is the channel of the network that you have. So not just on social media. To channel your messages, you've got to really test it with people who love you and people you trust and people who will be honest to you. Because if you just channel with everybody, people might be just stroking your ego to say, yeah, it's really great, but it's not. So get feedback from people who will really just want to sharpen the sword or want to shine the diamond. Never underestimate that channel, whatever network that you have.
Awesome. Love it, love it, love it. Okay, we've got two questions. One from Edwin. I'm going to ask that one so we can close up the message box. And then we've got one from Nombi that I will read after that. So Edwin says, have you ever, Thami, experienced messaging dissonance, and how did you overcome it?
So let's start by this. I use very simple English, by the way, because I'm a message architect. I believe when I give messages, everybody must understand it, because I'm not here about, to complicate. So I'm going to say, I don't even know what dissonance means. So let's break it down, because I'm sure there's people online who don't know what dissonance is. And I want everybody to be engaged in the conversation.
Sure. So my thought would be, and Edwin, you can add on to that. My thought would be what he means is maybe a contrast of different messages. Maybe you feel like you're putting out more than one, something contrary, like you said, with your previous Instagram experience, where you felt like this is actually quite contrary to what I once put out or what I want to be putting out. I think he's asking, so how do you then come back to one unified message?
I don't have to come back to one unified message. I'm not sure if you've been on, Edwin. I was talking about not having one unified message and just showing the different parts of your life. Has there been anything contrary? Yeah, maybe. But I'm always proud of it, and I don't need to come back to one. I'll give you an example. So I've been posting really these corporate pictures of myself because I have a lot of corporate clients and who I am. And yesterday I was very chuffed with myself because I got to post the fun part of me, the fun side of me that I've never showed on social media, which may be contradictory or of dissonance. Thank you for that word. Now I know it, Edwin, to my audience. But it's really true to who I am. So it depends who's looking at it as contradictory. And if you really care if that people think it's contradictory, it goes back to, are you being authentic to yourself?
I just love, and before I go to Nombi's question, I just absolutely love what you said about simplicity. And I think, I've fallen into the same trap as Edwin, and I'm sure a lot of us have, where you spoke about industry jargon earlier in this conversation, where you fall into that trap. And we fail to understand that really to communicate your message to everyone and have it really sit the way you want it to. Simplicity sometimes really is the ultimate sophistication, hey?
But it's also the history that we come from, right? I'll speak to my history. I was living Gokasi. There were a lot of my friends who went to school just around the corner, and I went to a private school. The kids that were picked up at 4:30 and blah, blah, blah. And we felt the need to kind of differentiate who we are. And I never want to fall in a trap of trying to show my intelligence through language. And so I've been very, very specific that if I want to make impact in the world, I don't know what countries speak, what caliber of English and whatever else have you. And I want to reach as many people by speaking as simplistic, as simple as possible, because the message goes a lot further and it makes much better impact.
Fire. Cool. So let's read Nombi's question now. She says, please ask Thami what advice she would give a 30-year young lady who would also like to go into public speaking, and also how one can boost their self-esteem for public speaking. Not too related, Nombi, to our conversation, but I'll give it to Thami and see if she's willing to take a crack at it. Thami?
I love how she said 30-year-old. I know who Nombi is, so she's like speaking something quite specific. If you want to get into public speaking, just get on stages and start speaking. So offer your services anywhere and start seeing if you are going to be received by audiences when you're up there. I think that's the first thing. Self-esteem is not really something that's just related to the speaking. It's something that you've got to build for yourself as for yourself in totality. So I love how people love to pair, and I'm sure you've seen this, that it is self-esteem and speaking. And I'm like, okay, self-esteem is what you think about yourself. And what you believe you are portraying to the world. So that doesn't really quite tie with speaking on stage. Self-esteem is build yourself, find yourself, grow yourself, know that you're worth it, know that you're enough, know that you are where you're supposed to be, know that you're not ahead, you're not behind. It's something I just learned from Jay Shetty a few days ago. And then the speaking thing, just speak. And even if it's COVID time at the moment, just speak to yourself in front of the mirror and just think to yourself, is this what I would like to do? And public speaking, and you say public speaking, so public speaking for me can be defined in so many ways. It could be debating, it could be a news anchor, it could be a presenter on TV, and that can be broken down even in continuity presenter, many different presenting skills. Sorry, I've got people in my house. My child just came down, so I just wanted to make sure that there is no noise there. But because we see presenting as such a glamorous thing when we have our makeup on and we're all dressed and we have our high heels, we think it's an amazing space to be in once you see the photos. You need to first, as this 30-year-old, figure out, am I willing to put in the work that needs to go in this and the effort? There's nights where we sleep in the wee hours of the morning researching about industries that we don't even know about. And you've got to come across as you know about this because people expect the conversation to just flow. There's call times at sometimes like 3:30 in the morning. So first figure out, am I willing to do the hard work? Am I willing to put in all the effort to enjoy the end results of what this public speaking will bring? And it's not about fame. This is another, I think misconception is sometimes people want to speak because they can be famous. Let me tell you, babes, if you want to be famous in the speaking game, good luck, because only a handful will make it to the fame part.
Great advice. Thanks, Thami. Okay, so let's sum up the conversation, Thami. What would you say 3 or so takeaways are when it comes to our messaging?
So the 3 takeaways, I'd say, be sold on your message before you try and sell it and share it with everybody else. Be sold on it. So if you're attacked, you know what it is what the message is within you. I do think that I'm lending from what I said. Ask your network, do ask for opinions and inputs on if you are shooting the shot and the right shot at what target. So I think that's very important. And then consistency to yourself. Consistency doesn't mean the same. It just means you are regular in yourself.
Wow. Okay. I wish that this could go on for a lot longer, but we're out of time and the kids are home. So thank you so much, Thami, for your time. Thank you so much.
I'm a mom.
You say great advice.